Hi guys, my name is Jacinta Moyer and I'm here to do an overview on multimodality and artifactual literacies. So the multimodal approach. Now, as I'm talking about the multimodal approach, I want you guys to think about the four types of learners: visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. It is important to note that multimodality is not a theory. Instead, Jowett and Bezimer state that it refers to a field of application rather than a theory. This study has had a significant impact on learning and teaching in recent years. The phase multimodality refers to the way communication involves many modes. Now, when we speak about modes, we're going to refer to meaning-making resources like word, sound, image, and layout. They work in relation to one another in the representational process, which I will discuss the representational process a little later here in the PowerPoint. Historical and foundational connections. In 2013, Fluid suggested that multimodality in relation to the field of its language and communication studies is important because prior to its development, linguistic studies had considered modes other than language, such as gesture and gaze, but these were always addressed separately instead of one consistent approach until the rise of multimodal approach. Gunther Kress in 2010 suggested that multimodality has risen because of the process of globalization. With the rising dominance in the late 20th and 21st centuries for modes of sound, movement, and multimedia text, it became necessary that us educators begin to understand the multimodal communication with a deeper consideration. And as we get to understand it more with a deeper consideration, as I'm sure most of you definitely have, um, we get to see that we're more so moving away from just written grammar and really involving the multimedia text, getting more involved with having children be active with their work versus just reading and writing, and which is going to all contribute greatly to their literacy and language. Social semiotics. Kress's development of multimodality has stemmed from Halliday's theory of social semiotics. Semiotics is the study of signs that can take the form of words, images, sounds, and more. Kress has implied social semiotics into three key principles. One, intentions of communicators, in terms of the choices of modes made, should focus on a specific study and not be at random. This way, commutative acts represent certain meanings. Number two, the sign maker is at play. So when it says the sign maker, this is the communicator, the individual as a communicator. This being said, children have random uses of material in their meaning making that can be analyzed and traced back to their intentions, experiences, and preferences. Number three, the sign maker draws upon resources that they experience in their culture context, and the modes that they use may be different depending on their culture. An additional central focus of semiotic theory of multimodality is design that is linked to rhetoric. So to better help us see this in a more of a grasp form and have it more explained, I'm going to go over design and rhetoric. So first we need to understand the representation. The representation focuses on interest in our engagement with the world and gives material realization to the meaning about the world that apply to us as individuals. Communication focuses on the wish and needs of each individual to make representation available to others in order to interact with them. So the representation is how we're viewing it, how we're seeing it, our experience with it. Now the communication is going to be how we're communicating it in order to interact with another. The rhetoric permits both representation and communication. It is the politics of communication. And when we talk about the rhetoric, we're really thinking of who is our audience? Who are we displaying what we need to communicate to others? And how do we need to change it up depending on the audience? The design permits both representation and communication. It is a translation of intent into semiotic implantation. So the design is going to use the representation, communication, and the rhetoric all together. It's going to be considering the modes that we're going to use, so like Crest said, not at random. This is not going to be at random. This is going to be the modes that we think we need to use to communicate it and represent it the best way we can. All right, so this was a classroom application activity that I found for the multimodal approach. And I'm sure you guys have used this or seen it, just like everyone has, the water cycle model. And I'm not going to read the instructions. I'm just going to kind of talk about it, how it would be used in the multimodal approach. So the multimodal approach is all about using modes to communicate. So we have words such as a vocabulary. We have sound, which could be sound made, of the falling rain or just even the sounds of the words. The images, what are we going to use? Pictures, are we going to draw it out? Are we going to use recyclable materials or things around the classroom? And of course, the layout, the overall of how it needs to be presented. So then that way we can provide the best communication we can to peers, to students. If you're obviously a child, how are you going to use this to communicate with the teacher, your classmates, and such? So also with the multimodal approach, we need to mention the artifactual literacies. Artifactual literacies focus on text as Artifactual literacies focuses on text as a multimodal combined with a situated account of literacies as material and artifactual within home, school, and community settings. It is important that we understand the ways that material objects can take a central place in meaning making. On page 94, the book states artifactual literacies might be viewed as an approach to understanding the origins and social histories of the artifacts that children create in their multimodal practice. Paul and Rousel mentioned that this approach pays attention to the importance of artifacts in children's lives and takes into consideration their emotional feelings towards things. So, historical and foundational connections. In Paul and Rosel's early work, they looked back at the process of sedimentation of social practices and modes. When observing the tests and artifacts that children created, they were able to see how their previous social and cultural experiences and interests are embedded into their work. Bourdieu's notion, called habitus, explains this. Habitus is a set of dispositions, structures of the mind, that has been informed by past experiences and in turn shape future actions. So, what we want to do with the artifactual literacy is use artifacts with literacy that opens up more space and understanding for kids. So, for an example, if I brought a slipper into class, let's say, and had children connect with the slipper, what does your slipper look like at home? Do you have any slippers? Would you want a pair of slippers if you didn't have them? And it connects to them. Providing this artifact not only gives them the visual, but then also helps them depict words and use words that are going to be coming out um, just by using this artifact. Also, artifactual literacy approach ties into the flow of communication and gives us something more to talk about when we can see something and use something that really relates to us. So the classroom implication that I chose for artifactual literacy is this video. I also provided this uh, this lesson right here that you can look at. It's called Whose Shoes, and it's just talking about how you can use artifacts to start up a great conversation, to make connections with your students, and that's for grades 1 to 2. This video that I have about the Artifactual Literacy Project is from a college student talking about softball. So let's just play it real quick. All right, so as you can see, for their artifactual literacy, they use pictures. They're talking about their memories, things they experienced, and this is all connecting back to their literacy. They have the sound of their voiceover, and they have the music, maybe a song they really liked, and this song actually goes along, obviously, with baseball, so that's kind of cute as well. So, real quick, some of the resources that I provided. Of course, the book and the chapter. If any of you guys have used Prodigy, this link right here is a blog, and it talks about the multimodal learning strategies and examples. And I thought this was really cool. I found this by searching artifactual literacy. Lectures, just because I was interested and I wanted to share this with you guys. This is one that is based out of Europe, but if you read the abstract, it's really awesome and it gives you a really good insight about what they would be talking about and how it would apply to probably all your students and probably what you have already did with your students. But it makes you really consider other things that you can do within your classroom and how you can connect it, even just by reading the abstract. All right. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.